You caught you sleeping there.
Yeah.
How how you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good, good, good. How's it going? Any more job interviews?
No, not yet. I think I'm gonna do one resume over to one called Anthroprint and Anthro something print and something like
Mm-hmm.
that. But it's for a entry level position. So
Okay.
I'm gonna see if they need somebody.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. I'm glad to see you out there uh, applying. Now's a good opportunity to get in as the economy starts opening up. I'm thinking that it's kind of the early bird catches the worm, if as they say. So get in there, because I think a lot of people are going to be trying to gear up and hire back employees. And I can't believe what I see happening in the restaurant business. I mean, there's like hiring signs everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody is needing employees in hospitality. And it's interesting though that they're having trouble getting workers. And there's been several articles written on that I think are really kind of interesting um, results of what the pandemic has.
The trauma left in people's head, mind.
Yeah, everything from not feeling safe to finally coming to a realization that that's not really what they wanted to do, and they're not getting just pay for all these years that they've been working in restaurants and bars and stuff. And a lot of them have found other employment because they couldn't work, so they had to go out and find other jobs. A lot of people moved out. A lot of people like the remote aspect of working. So, there's all these factors that have played into it that I thought were, kind of interesting. And yet at the same time, Carly and I were at Lazy Dog Cafe over there in 4th Street, and noticed that there were a lot of tables, but not a lot of, I mean, a lot of people waiting and empty tables, but not, they weren't filling those tables. And we were kind of wondering, I wonder if they're short staffed. And,
Mhm.
they're just not seating people because they realize they don't have the staff for it. So kind of interesting. And that kind of brings me to, well, not so much the negative aspect, but of graphic design, but I wanted to end our kind of module here in business ethics and prepress. I know prepress issues we talked about early on, and those things about understanding resolution and actual pixels per inch, and are very important for print. I focus mostly on the business ethics part of this because I think there's so many issues here that are so vitally important and changing constantly. And so I wanted to end kind of our discussion with some topics that I actually picked up from an article that I read recently on. The article was, well, I'll show it to you in a sec. Let me go to, and how you doing, Ruben and Steve?
Doing pretty good.
Good to
Doing
see
pretty
you
good.
here. Great.
I saw the same problem in Portland when I was there. There was not a lot of open tables. It's not enough people willing to work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems to be a big issue right now. So
People need more money.
yes, they do. Okay, I'm gonna share this. And so on my last lecture today, and this will be the last lecture, although the module ends on Monday, our usual meeting time is Tuesday, so we won't be meeting on Monday. And Sunday will be the last day to turn in the assignment, and the assignment is going to be a quiz. It's going to be a short quiz, and it's going to cover this video that I think is so vitally important for all of us to understand and see where technology is going, where it needs to go. And I think we talked about that in the last class, about what's happening in social media, and how we're being fed just information, recommendations on YouTube and so forth. I'm not going to really get into that again. But anyway, this video covers everything. I showed some excerpts from this video, and I thought some of the statistics were really interesting in terms of some of the surveys that they've been taken, and Tristan Harris, how he describes what's happening to us through manipulation of social media platforms and so forth. So anyway, that's what's going to be the final assignment for this module. The discussion that I want to talk about today is, it says here, some things to expect in your career. And this is basically what I want to talk about. Social media video and final quiz we just talked about, and just kind of an overall recap of this module. So let's get into this. Some things to expect in your career. And I'm going to jump right to this article here that is entitled, "What I Wish Someone Told Me Before Becoming a Graphic Designer." And I really related to this because I experienced a lot of this in my career, and I think everybody that is in a career of graphic design will experience this. We get into this field because we're excited about design, and a lot of us, come in from the art side of it. We're attracted to art. We like drawing. We like, dealing with design and color and software programs and all of that. And yeah, who... I remember when I was working early on, I had a friend stop by to take me out to lunch, and he came into the studio, and he came a little bit early, and he stood over my desk, and we were talking, and he saw all these markers out on my drawing board, and he saw that I was doing a marker comp, and he looked at me and he says, "Man," he says, "you actually get paid to do this?" And he goes, "How cool." And I think that that's kind of, I almost feel like we're privileged to be able to make a living doing graphic design. And I've always thought that. Of watching other people work, and my friends and the jobs that they've been in, and, sitting in cubicles behind computers and crunching numbers all day long. And, to me, that's just like hell, to have to work in that kind of environment. Now, that's just me. For other people, they love doing that, and that's great, But for me, it was always going to be about, I want to have fun on the job. I want to go to work, and I want to look forward to what I'm doing every day. And for the most part, I think I could say that was pretty much the case. However, in this article, and I don't know who it was written by a gal that obviously has worked in the design field. And she says, "Before becoming a graphic designer, I wish someone had told me." And then she goes on to name these, list these points. "Boring work is part of the gig." Okay, now that's something that we don't necessarily think about, none of us go into graphic design thinking that this job is going to be boring. But, what she's saying is that, this is a quote from a senior designer at this studio called Duckpin. It says, "Being a professional graphic designer is just as much about working on tedious, boring jobs as it is building cool brands that require lots of creativity." And they always said the bread and butter, that term bread and butter. And every design firm exists because they have these so-called bread and butter accounts. And bread and butter accounts could be, just very mundane kind of things. I mean, you could be doing forms. I don't know how many forms that I did, just basic typographic forms, almost like, fill in the blank forms. No photographs, no illustration, just straight typography. Very conservative. It's almost like designing a 1040 IRS form. Imagine doing that every day, you know. But that could be a bread and butter account that a company that you work for has, and you have a lot of that to do. Catalogs can get very boring at times. It's like page after page of the same thing, little photo, description, price, and changes constantly. That doesn't get very exciting. So anyway, this idea of it's part of it. It's part of what we do. And, you know, don't be so naive as to think that everything that you're going to do is going to be this, this elaborate and, very exciting thing. Hopefully, you're going to be doing those things. Hopefully, the company that you work for is involved with clients that will ask you to do things like, very creative things and long projects and lots of different, uses of all the things that you love. And that's part of where you want to look. Remember, you're establishing a career, which means that you're in it for the long haul. And so, ultimately, you want to set your sights on a company that is doing work that you feel down the line, yeah, I can really get into this. This is something that I really like. Even if you design shoes at Nike, okay, there's going to be boring tasks that, you're going to have to do. But overall, it's Nike, it's shoe design. That's exciting, so the foundation is there. And I really think you should look for that, because it's really kind of your own fault if you get stuck in a design firm that does boring work. You probably should have known that, before you agreed to work with them. Things aren't going to get that much better. You walk into a shop during an interview, you walk into a design firm or something, and you kind of look around and go, man, is this a place that I want to work? I walked into Pentel, a company that's right here in Ontario, and I thought, ooh, Pentel pens, I'm really into pens and I really like, doing that. I walked in there and the place was just, it was a decent facility, but it was just junk, man, everywhere. Cubicles with junk stacked up, and you couldn't even see the artists in there. And I kind of looked around and, you start thinking, man, this is what I'm going to be doing every day, working in this environment. Is this going to fulfill me? So anyway, boring work could be part of the gig. Okay. Be big on collaboration. And when I first started in design, I never really thought that I really didn't know what the situation was going to, I really didn't have a desire to work for any, for a large company or a small company. To me, it really didn't matter. And I've worked for both just because out of circumstance, but I never really thought about, am I going to be how close am I going to be working with other people, or am I going to be working by myself? Am I going to be, pretty much in my own space, or am I going to be on teams constantly working with other people? The suggestion here is be big on collaboration. And it says collaboration was one aspect of the design firm that I fell in love with. Being part of a team and working on projects together challenges you to look at things differently and almost always results in stronger concepts. And most good design firms are structured this way, where you will work in teams. You will work with other people because they know this. They know that, two heads are better than one, and three heads are better than two, and down the line. And they want you to collaborate. They want you to find that sweet spot in your solution. And they know that it can only happen when brilliant minds work together. When you're forced to work alone, and a lot of us kind of go, well, I wouldn't mind working for a small company where I'm the only designer, and nobody bothers me. And, I report to my boss, but, I don't have all these other people that I have to deal with. And I don't want to say that there's anything wrong with that necessarily, but your chances of growing are much less, if you're kind of the lone graphic designer, not a loner, but the lone graphic designer versus the person that's working in, a highly charged environment. So collaboration, I think, is something that really gives you motivation. It gives you competition, competitive spirit, and it also really leads to the best solution. So, okay, this one here, no designer is right for every project. That I didn't realize until later in my career. And in the beginning, I was kind of had this attitude like, give me anything. I can do everything, just give it to me. I'll do it, and I'll make it work. And it wasn't until later in my career that I realized that, what, I'm not the right person for a lot of this stuff. I was given a project once for a package design firm to do, it was literally women's perfume. Okay, it was Giorgio of Beverly Hills. I mean, it was a great client. Giorgio of Beverly Hills, and it was very high priced, perfume. And we had to do the packaging for a lot of their products. And it was that project that I really struggled with because I just did not see and it wasn't a good fit for me. And yet we were a small firm and we all had to kind of do work on these projects. But advertising agencies really scrutinize who works on what account. They look for good fits, and that's really important. It's important that if we have REI, as a sports company, that we need designers and writers that are involved athletically, that hike, that do these things because they can relate to our client. And a lot of times in small companies, they don't have that luxury of finding that. So what I started finding out more is in wedding photography, and I would interview potential clients that wanted us to do photography, and I would really start questioning them in terms of what their style was, what they were looking for, and I would have them post photos of what they like in terms of wedding photography and shots, different angles of shots. I'd have them post it on Pinterest. We would set up a general Pinterest board. And I would start looking at those photos and I would start asking myself, is this something that I can get into, that I can do a good job in? I mean, I could shoot it, but is this something that I really want to be involved in this style? I mean, I have a style, Carly has a style, our styles are kind of the same, and that's why we offer what we do. And so there were a few clients that we turned down because we just didn't feel that we were the right fit. And I think that that's something that you have to, I know, you need the job, you need the money, but it could possibly turn into a negative rather than a positive. And again, it's not everything you're going to do is going to be great and fun, but you have to, you have to make that some kind of foundational decision as to whether or not this is a right fit for you. And my son's wedding, one of his friends is a videographer and runs a video business, a video production business, and he's kind of a young guy. I mean, in my standards, he's a young guy. He was like in his mid-20s, maybe late 20s, and I needed someone to assist me in a wedding. And so I asked him, and while I was there, and he says, well, why don't you call my company on Monday? And he says, and I want you to talk to some of the people that that work with me. And he says, we'll see if it's a right fit for us. Give us some information, and we'll see if it's a right fit for us. And I went back and I thought, wow, this guy's really got a tight company. I mean, he's already doing that, and they're not going to take on a job that they don't feel that they're right for. Okay, so anyway, no designer is right for every project. It's better for everyone and a lot more enjoyable when you and the client are on the same wavelength. And yes, obviously. And we talked a little bit about that in the ethics class, in the ethics discussion about really scrutinizing what you're doing. Is it ethical? Is it something that you feel is right? Expectations aren't always realistic. And this is kind of a short paragraph on just kind of a lot of clients disregard, or just not disregard, but just I want to say this kind of softly, but the term is ignorance, and it's a client's ignorance for what we do as a profession, as a graphic designer. And we've talked about this before, but ask the average Joe on the street, what does a graphic designer do? And you will get this answer. And the answer is, you're an artist, you like to draw, you design posters, whatever, but nothing really, they never really hit the core of what it is that we do and what we get paid for. They think we're artists. And so, therefore, we're talented, and they'll always throw that out. You guys are really talented, you guys draw so well. I can never do that. You're very creative. But when it comes down to doing a job, and when it comes down to figuring out, pricing, how much it costs, and how much time is involved, many of them have no clue as to what it takes to do what we do. So their expectations, you will find, are very unrealistic. They think they can get work overnight. It's like, oh, well, you guys work on computers and Photoshop, right? I should be able to get this tomorrow, right? Can I have it tomorrow? It's like, no, it's not like that. You don't push a button on your keyboard and out comes your design. And anyone that does this, and you all have done this, know that it takes a long time to do this. Now, yeah, we have very efficient tools, but you don't want to get into a conversation with a client like that, where you're actually starting to educate them on, what you have to do and all of that. But just remember that that's something that's going to come down the pipe when you take on a job, and it's usually in terms of how much it costs and how much time they think that it should take. And in that sense, be ready to have your spiel in educating them and letting them know, your process, right? How it works. And we talked about that before. You need to tell them how you run a business. Data analytics impacts designers, and more we're starting to see job posts claiming to know marketing, and they will say like SEO knowledge, search engine optimization knowledge, which is something that is not really in the general graphic designer's wheelhouse. Those are marketing topics that you have to know if you're a marketing major. If you're doing web design, there is some aspect of that you need to be familiar with. But I can design a website, but I can't put it at the top of Google search for you. Okay, that takes a knowledge of marketing that goes way above my my knowledge base. But more and more, those are the things that are kind of being assumed that you know a little bit about. And you're going to have to explain that to them if that's what they're looking for. Another thing that is, graphic design is changed so much in terms of what you need to know and what you're expected to know, what a lot of clients expect you to know. Not just, the old traditional print graphics, but everything to do with the web to understand HTML and basic coding. To now, the biggest thing is UI and UX design, which is, really what is graphic design is coming to. Pretty soon, graphic design is going to be courses that you take in a UI or UX major. It's not going to be the graphic design major anymore. In fact, I see that coming down the pipe as does many designers. Graphic design, traditionally, the graphic design major or programs in school is no longer going to exist. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's going to be UI and UX. That's going to be the major. And in that major, there will be graphic design courses in that major. So if that puts this whole field into perspective for you, that's basically where it's moving. There still is print. I'm not saying that there isn't print. There's plenty of print out there. But the emphasis in moving forward is really going to be on UI and UX. Video and photography are things that are kind of already assumed that the graphic designer is knowledgeable in and is skilled at doing. Being able to shoot video, edit video, and shoot photography and edit photography. Those are things that were implemented in graphic design programs all the way from, I would say, almost 10 years ago, but maybe not that long. But quite a ways back, we, and these are my discussions and my involvement with advisory boards from different schools. Photography and video are now mainstream parts of graphic design. And that's why we offer it in Platt. Think we need to offer more of it, actually. I really do. I really think video really needs to be more emphasized. But, it's an accelerated program, and we have so much time to get all this stuff in. But those are things also that will impact you in terms of moving forward in this career. And did you guys take photography? Did I have you photography?
I took it with you, and it was a short class.
I did not
Yeah.
have it.
Not
It was
yet.
not yet. Okay. Yeah, Ruben. It goes. And it's a 50-hour class, man.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the class. It was cool. I mean, I think I got a couple pretty cool pictures of
Yes.
it, and I really enjoyed doing it. It was fun.
And there's
And
software.
I wish we had more time.
Yeah. And I would be another thing too that I would be more than willing to offer after, at any time. So if you want to learn more about that, just hit me up. I mean, it doesn't have to be a formal class. Email me. I can give you assignments. I can give you walkthroughs of any of the software programs, Lightroom, or any techniques, whatever you want. Because I realize that class is it's just not enough for, but it does, hopefully it did give you the basics of that. Okay. All right. Now, this is something that we talked about before, to always get a deposit first when freelancing. However, we talked in much more depth than, these few short paragraphs. It kind of makes it sound like, it's easy to do and, everyone should get a deposit. Yeah, in a perfect world, you would get a deposit before you started work. But the reality is you're going to be dealing with, all kind of different mindsets when it comes to this. And one of the mindsets, again, getting back to expectations, is that that is not an expectation of many clients, is to pay you up front. No, you know what the expectation is do the work, show me, and then I'll pay you. That's the expectation. And if that's the expectation, then getting a deposit is very difficult to do in this field, because the expectation is, no, I'm not paying you anything until you show me. You know, and it's a lot different than walking into a store and buying a product. At least you see the product. You know, maybe you have to open up the box to see it. I've done that before too. But anyway, at least you know what you're getting. Okay. And then you take it up to the register and you pay for it. Okay. So, but this next point is really promising. And I know that a lot of these things were kind of, you know, maybe some of the slight negatives of the career, but so many career options have opened up once we, you know, moved this field into, you know, into the cloud, whether it's the internet or websites or whatever. We have opened up and democratized so many different industries. For instance, photography. We were never photographers. Graphic designers were not expected to take their own photos. And the reason why is simply photography was an established industry in and of itself. I mean, you know, either you studied to be a graphic designer or a photographer. But now it's all kind of lumped into the same category. The reason being is because we have access to photographic equipment now, cheap. We don't do darkroom developing. We do Photoshop and Lightroom, and everybody has computers. So there's no reason why we cannot be photographers. And I'm not talking about just graphic designers that know a little bit about photography. We can be full-on photographers. I mean, I became a wedding photographer, and I know very reputable wedding photographers out there, older guys like, you know, the age of my dad, you know, I mean, they're all passed away now, but they would laugh at me to think that I can just overnight become a wedding photographer. I mean, they would look at me and say, you know, you're out of your mind. I mean, you know, you don't know what we do. And yet, because I have a camera, because I have Photoshop and Lightroom, I'm claiming that I'm a photographer. Now, I agree that, you know, photography is a respected profession and you really have to know your stuff about cameras and apertures and all of that and lighting. But what I'm saying is that we can do a pretty good business as a photographer. I mean, my case in point. And I never thought I would ever be able to shoot a wedding. I mean, are you kidding me? And yet, the next thing you know, I'm shooting weddings and making thousands of dollars doing it. And people, you know, all they care about are the photos. And I looked at that and said, you know what? I can do this. With this camera that I have and Photoshop and Lightroom, I can give them amazing photographs. And I did, hopefully. And so, you know, that was never a career option when I started. Video, another thing that I started shooting, wedding videos. In fact, I got into wedding videos before wedding photography. And it was because of the same thing. We now had the equipment to do it that was affordable. I had to buy some lighting, and in video, you're going to have to spend a lot more in your accessories, because you need lighting, you need audio, and that stuff ain't cheap. But if you really are interested in that, it's still affordable. I mean, compared to what it used to be. So not only can you be a video person, you could be a photographer and a graphic designer. And normally, when you look at today's graphic designer, they are all three. Okay, I'm not saying graphic designers out there shooting weddings, but they are shooting, you know, video, mini, you know, commercials for YouTube. They're shooting their own photography. I mean, why hire a photographer that's going to charge you $1,200, $1,500 a day when you can take your DSLR and get a good shot, good enough for your client, and build that in and get that money yourself? Okay, so lots of career options. You can build websites, you can do print, you can do just a myriad of things. So, in that sense, we have really inherited a lot of potential. And a lot of people say, oh, well, graphic design is going away and, it's being all absorbed by, templates and online websites and Canva and instant templates for business cards and stuff. Well, you know, no, there's nothing more valuable than hiring a person that has all of these capabilities that could provide all of this stuff for your company. It's like a one-stop shop. They hire you and they need video done, they need photography done, they need graphic design done. You do it. You do it all. And I think your portfolio should really reflect that. A lot of people say you should specialize in one thing. You should be good at one thing. But really, if you look here, they mention that here. Can't remember where they said that, but it's really kind of being a jack of all trades. You know, the term a jack of all trades and a master of none.
Mm-hmm.
Well, believe it or not, that is still, uh, you know, I think that's still what companies want. They like the idea, and I think we all like the idea of this one-stop shop, where I don't have to go out to a web designer and have them do my website, and then go to a graphic designer and have them do my ads and print, and then have to hire a photographer to shoot my photos, and then have to coordinate all of these people together. I mean, who wants to do that, right? Don't you want to just go to one person and have them just do it all? And when you have those skills, now you might not be great in you might be better in one area than the other, but at least you can cover it.
Mr. John?
Yeah.
I think Cindy has her hand up. She has like a hand on her.
Oh, I'm sorry, Cindy. Go ahead and speak up. Are you there, Cindy?
Sorry, I had myself on mute.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna leave class early because I took some medicine and I'm really really drowsy.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll look at the video afterwards.
Yes, do so.
So thank you so much, and I'll see you next on Tuesday.
Okay. Yes. Yes. I think I have you for the commercial illustration class.
Okay.
Yeah.
See you guys later.
Okay. Take care.
Okay. Bye bye.
Smoke crack, it's whack.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to wrap up shortly. Just a few more minutes and then we'll be done. So that's kind of what I really wanted to end with is, this whole idea of, I want to give, I am a big promoter of, this field of graphic design. I've done it all my life. I've found it change. I have to say that I've lived through the digital revolution of computers and the internet and all of that, and I've really seen the how it's evolved, both good and not so good. There are still a lot of things that I really wish all of you could be exposed to back in my day, which were really good. There were a lot of benefits of doing things the way we did. They weren't nearly as efficient. They weren't nearly as productive as the way you can do things today, obviously. But what it did was it really gave you a sense of, I think one of the biggest things is it gave all of us a sense of craftsmanship. And I don't know if you guys build stuff or if you make stuff with your hands or if you like, putting things together. Um, you know, I mean, I always did. And as a designer and a production person, we did everything by hand. We cut out paper, we glued things, rubber cemented things down, we used ink pens, we markers. I mean, that's all we had. And yet, at the end of the day, you went home and you felt like you did something. You made something. And I don't know if you really truly have that feeling today after you exit out of your software program and quit. If you and turn off your computer and go home, I don't know on the way home if you really feel like you crafted something today that nobody else but you could do. And I think that gave us just this, this feeling that we were somewhat special in the sense that today I struggled so much to ink this diagram or whatever. And yet I did it and I did it well. And I whited out all my corners with a paintbrush and white paint. And I, it was like building something. If you've ever, constructed something, and you look at it and you look at the finish and you sanded it and you feel it and you painted it and it looks smooth and you just step back constantly and you go, yeah, yeah, you know. I mean, you ever had that feeling?
Mhm.
It's the feeling of craftsmanship and skill, and I think that that's the thing that's lost with a mouse and a keyboard and a computer. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say like that's one thing that I struggle with
Hmm.
is I mean not to get too detailed, but what I talk to my therapist about a lot is I feel like fraud. I feel like I feel like I'm lying about like everything I say, but like for example, like making that brochure recently, I didn't feel like it was that difficult to make that brochure, and so I felt like I was like, oh, I probably didn't do that good of a job. Like, it's probably not that good. I was like, I'm not even that good. It's just the computer doing the work. And so I definitely feel what you're saying. Like when I get done, sometimes it feels like, man, like it's like anyone could. Sometimes it feels like anyone could do that.
Hmm.
And it can be a little bit less fulfilling. I feel, and that's one thing I struggle with myself personally.
Hmm. No, no, you're absolutely true. I think we all do. I think we all do. And what's really disheartening is to see this industry going even more so in that direction in terms of, offering us these pre, you know, pre-designed templates where
Mhm.
all you do is plug in text and maybe change some colors around and voila, you have a nice clean design. Now granted, they're these templates are designed by designers and they do look good, but I think in the end we're all wanting our own stamp on it. you know I mean, we want to sit back and say that we made this stuff. This is our idea. We didn't just take a template and just revise it,
Mhm.
and plug this in. And I think as humans, I mean, going back to I love that, Tristan Harris, the evolution of man from, from the ape to, who we are today. I mean, we did stuff. We made stuff. That's in our human nature. And I think it'll always be. Um, and yet, it's the world we live in today. And it's like not about craftsmanship necessarily anymore as it is about productivity and just getting the job done and making a profit from it,
Mhm.
you know. And the person that gets it done first is the winner, you know.
Yeah.
And it's
And I've
it's just
noticed that a lot with some clients I've gotten. It's just like, hey, I need this done right now. I'm like,
mm-hmm,
I mean, it's not how this works, but I can try, like, because I have to compete. And one thing I hate is on social media, people go, oh, hey, I'm an influencer. you guys all make me a logo and I'll pick the one I like. That's not. I was like, I hate that. I was like, that's like. I was like, that's just slapping the designer in the face. Like, I was like, oh, I'm gonna pick out of like which ones I think are cool, but I'm not
Hmm.
gonna tell you what I want. I'm not gonna tell you anything. Just whatever you come up with, and that's hours. That's creativity. That's mental exhaustion. And
Right.
just for them to go, oh, whatever, dude. Who cares? Like,
Right.
it's a little bit slap in the face.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So,
Well, you've heard the term passion project, right?
mm-hmm.
Um, I remember even as early as when I started in design, I got into design because of illustration, because I like drawing. And I noticed that in the course of my career, I wasn't drawing that much. I wasn't doing the thing that really I had the passion for that brought me to this field. And I mean, it wasn't like what I was doing I didn't like. It was a totally different direction. But so I started drawing, on the side at home, just stuff that I wanted to draw. There was no reason for it, there was no client. It was basically what they refer to as your passion project. And I think as a designer, as a creative person, you need a passion project. As a musician, you need to be working on your own songs, even though those aren't the songs that you're playing. Let's say if you're in a band, like a professional band, but you need to be writing your own music if that's what you want to do, that's your passion. And same with artists. You need to be doing those things that, you really like. And that sustains you through this career of maybe not doing those things at work. To talk about the boredom of some of these jobs. I mean, so that when you come home, even though work was kind of boring today, I just did forms. Now you can pick up your paints or whatever, and you can start doing those things. And when you go to bed at night, you'll go, yeah, I'm happy. Okay, I did what I want. I fulfilled, a little piece of what I wanted to do today. And I think even more so today, in this world that we live in of just using templates and slapping stuff down and getting as much work out the door as possible, we really need that even more so today. Is for you to have that passion project that you're working on, and there's no deadline to it, and you can have fun with it, and and all of that. Um, okay, so in closing, let me just say that yeah, wanted to bring this article to you because yes, these are important things uh, to think about. Um, so in closing, what we're going to do is I want you to um, watch this video, and then where is my here it is, and then take the quiz. I already published the quiz, so it's live, it's ready to take. But watch the video, and the questions are kind of generalized questions, but I think from the excerpts that we've seen, you kind of get a taste of what's going to happen here in this. And I think it's really important. And I just want to close by saying that we are entering a very kind of tumultuous time right now. And we talked about, the world spinning faster and faster. And I mean, this is desperation for Tristan Harris and the way he's presenting this. And he's going all around the world giving these talks. And basically, he's saying that we as humanity have to do something now because, I mean, we're in a spiral. We're in a down spiral. And I'm just thinking of, and I'm never really been a political person that much. I'm interested in politics and I do follow politics a little bit, but never as much as I had over the last 5 years have
Yep.
I followed politics. And every morning I wake up, you know what I did? Every morning I went to my station, my tribal, you know, source of news, and just my heart was beating like, what is going to happen today? I was so unsure of what was going to happen, you know, um, just based on, who was sitting in the White House. And not only that, just the whole, division of the country just starting to grow and grow and grow. And I've always been a moderate, and I still am. I think of myself as a moderate, so I'm not totally closed off to the other side, or what. To me, there is really no other side. I mean, we are
That's the
a
same point.
country, you know. I mean, we are the United States of America, and that's the way I've always grown up, is that we are all in this together. I mean, I love the Olympics because it's the one time in 4 years that we can all cheer who we are together as a nation. And yet, over the last 5 years, it just seems like it's just coming apart at the seams. And I'm scared, I really am. I don't know what to expect in the next 2 years, or, God forbid, in the next 4 years when the next presidential election comes around. So, and I attribute a lot of it to this right here, to this, you know, to social media, to what we're being fed on our phones and on our computer screens and on our television sets. And it's just dangerous crap, man. Very scary, because we are humans. We are Paleolithic Neanderthals, right? I mean, we fall for this stuff. You know, when our friends say, did you guys ever take sociology?
Yeah.
Yeah. And in sociology, you learn how different we think in groups than we do individually. And I've learned that as a teacher. When I sit down with a student in my office one-on-one and I talk to them, I get a much different vibe than when I see that student in a group. When I see that student in a group, there's so many group dynamics that happen sociologically. We tend to gravitate towards people that, we agree with people, even though we don't believe it. We agree with people because they're our friends, they're our family. And so we're the first to say, yeah, 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 screw that guy. And yet we really don't believe that. And it's just the social dynamics. And that's exactly what's happening here, is that they're playing upon that. They're playing upon how we react in groups. And what we have to do is separate that and say, how do I feel about this? And in this video, he's going to give you an example towards the end about how Republicans and Democrats truly agreed on many issues. I mean, it was just exactly the same, almost. 60% of Republicans agreed, 55% of Democrats agreed on this issue. And yet, do we see any of that being fed to us? No.
Oh,
All we see is our divisions.
party
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I watched it recently, and I watched it 2 days ago, and I watched it after class last time, and it was really good. I mean, I was pretty blown away, and just like all the statistics and things they said, it was really powerful.
Yeah. What's interesting is that we know that's happening. You remember that one little segment where he says something like 70%, 72% of teens know they're being manipulated. They know that,
Mm-hmm.
And yet we're still, following these. I mean, we're still jumping on bandwagons and stuff. So yeah, anyway. Okay. So with that, I'm going to sign off. And you guys take the quiz, and I will. Ruben, I won't see you, but stay in touch with me.
No,
Steve, Ruben, yeah, both of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to have you in any further classes, but if I don't, definitely send me, contact me. Let's talk, man. Let's keep the dialogue going.
I was can I talk to you after class real quick? I was
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, sure. Okay. So All right. I will see you. I'll see you, Steve, and then Ruben, I'll stay on for you.
Sure.
All right.
Thanks, dude.
Take care.
Okay. Take care.
Bye.
Let me stop this recording, Ruben.